Leaving 5 minutes early is too much? Okay. First time poster to this sub. I'm going to preface this by saying I know leaving 5 minutes early is sorta a privilege, but I had gotten approval for this from my manager and her direct boss. I leave 5 minutes early to catch an earlier train that will get me home 40 minutes earlier than the next train. I had informed my boss and her boss if this 2 weeks prior to me actually starting to take the earlier train, and both said yes. I've been taking this train since January. Fast forward to today, and all of a sudden my manager tells me I cannot leave early anymore because she has gotten in trouble for it, which I found weird because both her and her direct boss had given me the approval already, and it's been good for months with no issue. I then find out from a coworker that a higher up in a totally different department happened to catch wind that I was leaving 5 minutes early and told my manager to stop letting me leave early because I'm not special and shouldn't be able to leave early to catch a better train for myself. What really is the kicker here is that I come in 1015 minutes early every day and I am never late. But apparently 5 minutes is too much an ask, so instead of leaving 5 minutes early I am now leaving 15 minutes later. Which doesn't affect me in any way because the next train doesn't come for a while. So now I'm racking 2.5 hours of OT every week between the time I come in early and stay late for pretty much no downside on my end because I'd spend that time waiting at the station regardless. If my employee asked me this, I wouldn't even think twice about it. That's just ridiculous. The only thing I can imagine where it would cause an issue is if you worked retail and needed to do closure or something, and you leaving early meant someone else had to close up every time. Some employers are just straight dicks. Doing this to an employee just builds resentment, and when you do need them for something, I wouldn't expect any help. Stick it to 'em. Still such a bummer that someone that's not even a direct manager had to be such a butt and put you in your place. Don't forget to take every sick day, paid vacation day, etc., just to spite them. I once had a job where I commuted from a nearby city, as did my wife. Timing worked out that if I left at 5 I got straight on a train that got me home at something like 6:30. But if I left even a couple minutes later, the next train got me home at 7:30. This meant either my wife also got home an hour later, or she'd have to go home then turn around 30 minutes later and come pick me up again. All good. Except one of my bosses worked overseas and kept calling for a project update at 4:50 each day. And I often had to finish the calls to leave. I delivered that project on time, on budget, fully functional with a decent handful of nice-to-haves as well. It was the only project delivered on time for the year within the company. I expected some pretty good feedback. What did I get? You know what I got. Shansu is a bit of a clockwatcher and we'd like to see more from him. So I left, not the only reason, but the trigger. I had a space heater at my desk. One afternoon a manager in another department walked by and heard it running. She told me it was against company policy to have space heaters at a desk. I replied, "I'm sure that applies to everyone in this company except me." When she asked why, I told her, "Because the company bought it for me. It was cold all the time in that building." Good on you for finding a solution, turning most of the wait time into overtime. Bravo. I've never understood this mentality. Like, what am I feasibly going to get done in 5 minutes? OT often needs to be approved, so I won't be surprised if that's the next issue you run into. I had a similar situation once. My manager agreed I could take a 50-minute lunch and leave 10 minutes early to beat traffic. It seriously made a 30-minute difference to my commute. Department head raised a fuss about it. Most days he would get in at 6:30 and leave at 3:30. Since he was almost never there at 5, I was past my probationary period. And a state employee. I just kept doing it. A month or two someone will talk to you about your overtime and how you have to clock in, out on time. This is the stuff that causes quiet quitting. I got into a passive-aggressive power struggle with a manager once. I didn't want to quit. They didn't want to fire me, and I created as many problems for them as I could with the "oops, how could I have made that mistake" reaction. It sounds like your manager needs to grow a spine and tell the other manager to mind their own business and department. So are you using that 30 minutes to make notes about higher up in a totally different department? To try and make trouble for them? Would be terrible if you had to email them for reasons, and you just happened to CC everyone. Something like, "Sorry you were out of the office at 4:55 and not available. But can you answer this when you're back in tomorrow?" Quote. If you're in the US, look into the FLSA. If your employer uses rounding, you may be entitled to leave up to 7 minutes early as long as it doesn't impact operations. We discovered this in 22, and now all 150 of us picked up half an hour of our life every week. It's great. Make sure you don't give them an inch. They aren't special either. Make sure OT is approved. They'll find a way to screw you, so beware. My husband was the only database administrator at the electric utility-related company he worked at. He has sleep issues and worked it out with the bosses that he could come in at 0900 later than company standard. Start time between 0700 and 0830 to do his 8 hours. Departure time would be 5:30. But he stayed until minimum 6 p.m. to demonstrate his commitment. Some complained, and got told that for the amount of time given and responsibility assumed by husband, management was not entertaining any complaints about his work hours. I'd probably be a little less forgiving depending where you are. That 5 minutes stipulation is a condition of your employment via verbal contract. I'd be inclined to legally argue this if it means enough to you. 40 minutes at home is a big deal. Dude, fuck them, just leave early. The OT is not worth getting home so much later. Time to brush up on your resume. Don't let them push you around. Seems like your manager and their boss didn't stand up for you to another department. Don't know the rank of that higher up, but they shouldn't butt in. I'd stop coming in early. It might make their life easier if they can count on an extra 2.5 hours of labor a week from you. But since it doesn't go both ways, I would not be granting them flexibility. Question: how come they're okay with you doing the OT?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.